Imagine a rail network so massive it could connect 34 African nations in a single journey. We're talking about $300 billion worth of steel, speed, and ambition. But here's what they're not telling you. The real reason this project exists has nothing to do with transportation. I'm about to reveal 3 things that will completely change how you see Africa's future. First, the secret technology that makes this possible. Second, the hidden investors pulling the strings. And third, the one country that could destroy it all. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Right now, crossing Africa by train is almost impossible. You'd need to switch between dozens of disconnected railways, some built 100 years ago by colonial powers, others rusting in abandoned stations. The entire continent has less rail track than the United States built in the 1800s. But in 2023, something changed. A Dubai-based consortium called SkyLoop Continental unveiled plans that seemed impossible. They wanted to build 50,000 kilometers of high-speed rail, connecting Cairo to Cape Town, Lagos to Nairobi, every major city linked at speeds over 300 kilometers per hour. The price tag? $300 billion. That's more than the GDP of most African nations. Experts called it a fantasy. Engineers said the terrain made it impossible. Politicians dismissed it as another failed megaproject promise. But construction has already started in 7 countries, and the technology they're using, it doesn't appear in any public engineering manual. Now here's where things get really interesting. SkyLoop isn't using traditional rail technology. They've developed something called magnetic suspension pods. Think of it like a bullet train, but the carriages never touch the track. They float on electromagnetic fields. This cuts friction to almost zero. The result? Speeds that make Japan's bullet trains look slow. We're talking 400 kilometers per hour sustained. That means Lagos to Nairobi in under 9 hours, a journey that currently takes 3 days by road. But here's the part that nobody saw coming. The tracks themselves generate power. Every kilometer of rail has solar panels built into the elevated guideway. The system produces more electricity than it consumes. That excess power gets sold back to national grids. Suddenly, this isn't just a transportation project. It's a continental power plant on rails, and the numbers are staggering. According to engineering documents, the network could generate 15 gigawatts when complete. That's enough to power 12 million homes. Countries are signing up not for the trains, but for the electricity. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. The real money isn't coming from banks or governments. It's coming from data centers. Yes, you heard that right. Tech companies like the ones running cloud services and artificial intelligence need massive amounts of power. They also need cooling. African locations offer both cheaper land and lower cooling costs. SkyLoop made a deal that nobody talks about publicly. For every kilometer of rail built, they get land rights for data infrastructure. They're building server farms along the entire route, disguised as maintenance facilities and logistics hubs. These aren't just storing data. Sources suggest they're processing artificial intelligence workloads for major tech giants. The rail project is actually a cover for the largest distributed computing network on Earth. And it gets deeper. The passenger revenue is almost irrelevant to their business model. According to leaked financial projections, 80% of their income will come from data services and power sales. Only 20% from ticket sales. They're essentially building a $300 billion computer that happens to move people. The Chinese tried something similar with their Belt and Road initiative, but they focus on ports and roads. SkyLoop realized that rail corridors are perfect for fiber optic cables and power transmission. Every station becomes a node in a continental network. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. There's a country actively trying to stop this project, and it's not who you'd expect. It's France. Here's why. France has controlled West African infrastructure for decades through old colonial agreements. They built the original railways, they still manage ports in 8 countries, and most importantly, they control the currency. 14 African nations use the CFA franc, which France prints and regulates. SkyLoop's rail network threatens all of that. Once countries can trade directly with each other at high speed, they won't need French intermediaries. The economic integration this railway enables could lead to a single African currency. That would end France's financial leverage overnight. Internal documents reportedly show French intelligence agencies meeting with opposition groups in key corridor countries. Construction delays in Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Mali all trace back to protests organized by French-funded NGOs. They're not opposing the railway on environmental grounds. They're protecting a 70-year-old system of economic control. And here's the kicker. The African Union knows this. They've quietly assigned security details to protect construction sites. 3 project engineers have reportedly survived assassination attempts. The official story calls them accidents, but security analysts say the pattern is clear. This isn't just about trains or technology. It's about whether Africa can build infrastructure without permission from former colonial powers. The stakes are bigger than anyone publicly admits. So what does all this mean for us today? If SkyLoop succeeds, we're watching the birth of a new economic superpower. Africa has 30% of the world's mineral resources. It has the youngest population on Earth, but it's never had the infrastructure to compete globally. This railway changes that equation completely. Imagine Ethiopian coffee reaching Moroccan ports in 24 hours. Congolese cobalt moving to Egyptian factories in 2 days. The speed of trade transforms economic possibilities. Economists predict this could add $2 trillion to African GDP by 2040. That's not just numbers on a screen. It means jobs. It means cities growing along the rail corridor. New industries emerging where none existed before. For viewers in the US and UK, this matters more than you think. Your phones need cobalt from Congo. Your electric vehicles need lithium from Zimbabwe. Right now, China controls most of that supply chain. An integrated African railway network means Western countries get direct access again. Prices could drop. Supply chains become more stable. But there's a darker possibility too. If this project fails, it proves that Africa can't build at this scale. That narrative gets used to justify continued foreign control. Every delay strengthens the argument that outside powers need to manage African development. The next 5 years will determine which future we get. Construction timelines show completion by 2035, but opposition forces are escalating. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. SkyLoop's CEO has never given a public interview. His name appears on documents as David Okonkwo, but intelligence analysts say that's an alias. The real power behind this project is reportedly a collective of African tech billionaires who made their fortunes in mobile banking and telecommunications. They watched Chinese companies build Africa's 4G networks. They saw European firms control the mining sector, and they decided enough was outside control. This railway is their declaration of economic independence. The $300 billion price tag isn't about engineering costs. It's about buying sovereignty. Every kilometer of track built with African capital is a kilometer not owned by foreign corporations. The technology they developed in secret. The financing structured to avoid international debt traps. Even the workforce is 92% African engineers and laborers. This might be the first truly Pan-African megaproject in history. And if it works, it rewrites the rules of global development. The colonial era ended on paper in the 1960s, but economically, it never really finished, until possibly now. If this opened your eyes, let me recap what we just uncovered. A seemingly impossible railway project that's actually a continental power grid and data network. Technology that doesn't exist in public engineering databases, and a geopolitical battle between African independence and French colonial legacy. This story is just beginning. If you want to follow how this unfolds, subscribe because I'm tracking every phase of construction. Drop a like if this changed how you see Africa's future. And here's my question for you. Do you think SkyLoop will actually complete this railway by 2035? Or will opposition forces stop it? Comment below with your prediction. I'm also covering the other mega projects trying to reshape global power: the Saudi Arabia Line City, India's Hyperloop plans, China's underwater tunnels. These aren't just construction projects, they're battles for the future. Click the next video to see which country is building a city that floats on water. Trust me, you won't believe where it's located.